talk a little bit about our mission. The Pennsylvania Women's Hall of Achievement. Our mission is to recognize women's accomplishments in all endeavors, to preserve them, and acknowledge the women of our state. You have done so much, and history has forgotten you. If you were born on the East Coast or the West Coast, you'd have a better chance of getting in the record-keeping books. And that needs to change. So that's why we did the Pennsylvania Women's Hall of Achievement. And we're hoping to do more things, to write books about you fabulous women, and to feature you in many ways. So I want you to give yourself a hand because you are special. Please. The women who are selected not only for the calendar, the Women's Voices here to speak, but also the spirit of the 19th Amendment, they come from all walks of life. Business, culinary, social activists, the army, the politics, the police, the arts, science, nonprofits, community volunteers, and government. You are women who chose to step out and make a difference, to right wrongs, to fight for our freedom, to feed the hungry, insist on fair treatment, and pushed yourself into places you told you couldn't go. And I know we have many stories about that. And I'm from the generation that I wanted to be an astronaut. I really did. Anybody remember Captain Video? The thing that came out of my mother's mouth was, women can't do that. Who knows? I may have been an astronaut, but I bought what she said. So I just drove her crazy other ways. So, the rights we have today, the right to vote, protection from abuse, competition in sports, equal pay, and we're still working on that one, right? They are, you notice how big the print is? Obtaining credit, having a loan in your own name, and we fought that one. For freedom, did you know that we couldn't participate in a jury because they thought we were too weak-minded? So, hold political office, our healthcare decisions about ourselves, keeping our own money, not having to turn it over to your husband. All of those were rights that women campaigned for and won. Many in this room were in the battle, like my friend Bonnie DiCarlo, and you all know that she's helped many of you get elected. And we co-founded the Pennsylvania Women's Hall of Achievement because we want the memory of you not to be shoved under the table, but to continue. And I want, in schools, a history course on what women do. And if any of you have contacts, please help me. You know, I naively thought when the 21st century began, I thought, oh yeah, our work is somewhat done. We were on our way. But today the challenges are back. And the resistance to our progress remains. And in many ways it is building. And that frightens me. We have a legacy of Pennsylvania of a woman who chose not to be docile and accept the status quo. At the Seneca Falls Convention a few hundred years ago, in 1848, one woman from Philadelphia, Lucretia Mott, a Quaker minister, with Elizabeth Cady Stanton of Seneca Falls, and several other like-minded women, in 10 days, they called for a convention. Can you imagine calling for a convention in 10 days and 300 people showed up? All I can think of is how in the world do you feed them, let alone and house them? But they showed up and they stayed for 3 days. And that time changed the world. It only took 4 generations to get the right to vote to pass, but it was the beginning. One woman who wasn't there, but made a significant impact and worked with Lucretia Mott. Does anybody know about the Married Women Property Act?
Yes.
Well, until that was passed in 1848. That said, if any of you are married, you had the right to own your own money. In 1852, and it was taken away. And that tells you how important judges are. You make the difference, for good or for bad. In the late 1870s, that act was finally passed. It had some loopholes, but it was passed. We are going to celebrate next year the 250th anniversary of the birth of our nation. And it's ironic that as they were writing the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, there was a measure, and every 13 states adopted it, saying that married women were the property of their husbands. I think that is, I have a word for it, I can't say. Oh, Lord. You know what I mean.
You can say it, Jan.
That sucks. You know, while we're celebrating and we got the passage of the 19th Amendment, many women did not. Our African American women and other minority women, they didn't get that. And until 1865, the Voting Rights Act to rectify states' discriminatory practices was passed. Unfortunately, as I said before, these rights, yours and my rights, are now back under attack. Pennsylvania was the seventh state to ratify the 19th Amendment on June 24th, 1919. And I actually want to have a big party someday on that. But it was not an easy victory. Pennsylvania is schizophrenic. Yeah. On one hand, we can be very liberal, and on the other hand, very conservative. So one of the strongest groups, anti-19th Amendment, came out of Pennsylvania. And twice they defeated a push in 1914 and 1915 to get the rights of women to vote. But in 1919, they finally managed it. But you can see, you know, we have liberal and we have very narrow. One of the things that I've done that is really exciting and gives me hope for the future is I have spoken to groups of young women, young girls. And, you know, when you you go into a classroom, you're like, what are they going to do to me? But I have managed to capture their attention, and I start with, how many of you have credit cards? A lot of those girls hand them up. And I say, you're not allowed to have them. They look at me. Well, what do you mean? And then I start telling them about how just recently, and I mean recently, I fought like mad to get my credit card in my own name. When you're married, you're Mrs. So-and-so. It may be nice, but you don't exist. So I get their attention, and I go through everything in the last 50 years, 20 years, 10 years that they just got. So our work is important, and the good thing is that the young ones recognize it. One young girl, I'll remember to the day I die, she jumped up and she pointed to her teacher and said, "Why don't you teach this?" And that made my week, my month, my year. She wanted to know why. So, I wander off speech. I've spoken at libraries, and the big surprise was that I have more books on women's history than the library has. And they asked me to make a list, and one of my librarian friends in Oakmont says, when you pass, can you give us your books? about 30 years from now, I'll do it. Today we have a legacy of strong women, many of them from Pennsylvania, who did not give up. Our charge today is to ensure that our rights, yours and mine, are remembered, honored, and retained. For those who hold office, and there's a number of you there, for those of you who are in judged positions, and those who are in service, your charge is extremely important. And you do face significant challenges. But we'll be there to back you up. So may the spirit of the 19th Amendment, with all here, all of you, grant you the courage, the tenacity, and the dedication, and the refusal to give up. Keep on going, because we have a lot to do, ladies. Now, what I'd like you to do with me, on the front of your program, to end, this was something, the 19th Amendment is right there, right in the front. This is something, blood, sweat, and tears. I'd like you to read with me, please. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. Thank you.
I am delighted to introduce our speaker. When I first met her, it was through a networking connection that happened over the internet. She was so serious. She almost scared me. But I've gotten to know her, and she's a delightful person. Major General Mary Kay Etter, she's retired, was a military leader and best-selling author, and you have some of her cards on your books that she's written, and they're fabulous. And they're stories about women that need to be told and remembered and honored. She was born in Stoneboro, Mercer County, and she retired. She attained the rank of Major General, and that wasn't easy. And she's going to talk to you about women's roles. But she also loves pets, and she rescues dogs. And I'm trying to get her to write more books about rescuing dogs. But she has so much, I'd be here till, But I am just going to say, I have met a new, wonderful, delightful, charming, intelligent woman, Major General.
Well, I could say the same about her. Because there are so many amazing people here who are in the legal profession, I want to talk to you just for a second about some of my experiences in the Army. Because in my last command, I was given all of the Army's highly technical specialties, including cyber, information ops, and the brand new legal command with 1,875 attorneys. We would send them taskers and they would send back legal opinions why they weren't going to do them. But then I was asked to speak at CLEs, continuing legal education conferences, across the US for them, and talk about ethics. The first one of these was held in San Diego. So when we got there, they wanted to explain to me about the hotel we were in, because Comic-Con was also there. I didn't know what that was. So they told me what to expect, and I said, okay, I understand. And then the next morning, I'm in the elevator, which is a glass elevator, open to the floors below. I can see all of the soldiers in uniform, and then Batman got in with me. And he looked at me, and I looked at him. You know that moment where you can tell what the other person's thinking? is that a costume? So we get a little bit lower, and he sees all of the soldiers, and he looks at me and says, "Thank you for your service." And I said, "Okay." And I said, "No, Batman, thank you for your service." But I want to talk to you just a little bit about women in communications in World War I and then again in World War II. Now in 2017, General John Pershing was setting up all of his command elements in France. The French communication system had been destroyed by the war. So he wanted to put in an American system for telephones, wire telephones. So they started using the French telephone operators. They were willing, but they were not very good at what they did, and the American soldiers couldn't understand them. So they had American men do this. Well, at that time, being a telephone operator or a switchboard operator was considered women's work, and they weren't very good at it. So General Pershing asked the War Department to send him about 100 American women to operate the telephone system, but they had to be bilingual. So by January of 2018, they had over 1,000 applications. And by May, 223 women were deployed as part of the Signal Corps into France to run the communications. About a month later, due to the growing American presence, the language requirement was dropped. And a young woman named Merle Egan from Montana said, "I'm going to join now." Now she quit high school at the age of 15, which was typical at the time. Only 15% of American kids graduated from high school. So for 11 years, she had been a telephone operator and one of the most experienced ones to go to France. So she was immediately made an instructor to teach male soldiers who were going to be on the front lines how to operate a field switchboard. One of the things she said was, whenever they saw me, they would say, "Where's my skirt?" And I would say to them, a man can carry one gun, but if you screw up this switchboard, it's going to affect a whole division. She said, I didn't have any more problems after that. So she continued to teach them, but she also continued to work too. The women worked 12-hour shifts. They let the men work at night because it wasn't as busy. But they were able to connect about 150,000 calls a day.
Wow.
That was a wow. What they're doing is talking about units moving. What are we doing with the artillery? Do we need to fall back? And all of the units had to be informed and on the line to understand what was going on. So by the end of the war, they had connected 26 million calls.
Wow.
So you know the date, 11/11/11, when the guns stopped that November. And what happened then? Everybody wants to go home. 2 days later, though, Merle was given a new job. She is now the head operator for all of the communications for the American Peace Commission. And she stayed in France until the Treaty of Versailles was signed. She said, I got to talk to people like President Wilson, the French ambassador, all of the big wigs from Britain. And she said, when you hold these wires that bring people together, it feels like you're holding their lives in your hands. She loved her job. She came home to Helena, Montana in May. It was a good 6 months after everyone else had, in May of 2019, just after Congress had put forward the 19th Amendment, and the states were beginning to look at it to ratify it. Merle came home to a hero's welcome in Helena. She was feted by the state. There was a parade in her honor, and just weeks later, Montana became the 13th state to ratify the 19th Amendment. Now, had to get to 36, and the last one was Tennessee. Not the last one, but the 36th was Tennessee. And the one lawmaker there voted for ratification because that morning his mother told him he had it. That is a smart man. So now it's a month after Merle has been home. She's gotten a beautiful citation for meritorious service from General Pershing, and she's married H.R. Anderson, who she worked with at the telephone company there. He wants to find out her rights as a veteran. And that's when she found out she wasn't a veteran. That the Army said, we don't have women, we only have men. Now, 11,000 women served at that time in the Navy Reserve, about 305 in the Marines, and a handful in the Coast Guard, but not the Army. And she fought them for the next 60 years until she won. In 1971, the 26th of August was designated as Women's Equality Day, but the Hello Girls, as they were called, were not made veterans until 1977. About 18 of them were surviving then. But she saw it happen. Now that's one aspect of communications. I want to tell you about, of course, I have to talk about someone from Pennsylvania, don't I? Yes. And talk a little bit about World War II. And I want to talk about Lena Darracott. Anybody know who that is? Lena grew up outside of Philadelphia. And when she was 20 years old, she decided she was going to join the Women's Army Corps in 1943. She later became part of the 688 Central Postal Directory Battalion, commanded by Major Charity Adams, and was sent to England to help with the issue with the mail. 855 women were in that unit, the only all-female, all-women of color unit to deploy in World War II. They were given an impossible job. And let's remember that other units have been given this mission earlier and they failed. So they give this impossible mission to 25-year-old Charity Adams as a major. Now when you talk about World War II units preparing to go overseas, some of them trained together for years. She met the 855 women in her unit when they got off the boat in Scotland. So they got to take a look in the warehouses to see how much mail was there. 27 million pieces of mail. Backlogged, some of it for over 2 years. There were rats in there eating the packages, little eyes in the dark. And she divided her soldiers up into 3 groups. They worked 24 hours a day. Now, they were given 6 months to do this. It took them 90 days. Any Army veterans in here? Okay, then you know. What happens in the Army when you do well with something? You get more to do. So then they were sent to Rouen, France to sort diplomatic mail and performed the same work. As the war ended, there were no parades for the most part. There were no celebrations. Whole units did not go home at once. There was a point system, how people went back. And by December, the majority of them did. Lena went back home. This group had reunions after a while, but they weren't recognized for over 80 years until just several years ago. Several of my friends started the effort to get them recognized, first with a Meritorious Unit Award from the Army, a memorial at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and then I was proud to help them, just a little, with the campaign for the Congressional Gold Medal. Now, that was approved in the last administration, but I was thrilled to be on Capitol Hill 2 months ago when that was presented. They gave me one of the coins that day. That is the Congressional Gold Medal presented to the 688. So if anybody would like to see it, I'd love to share it with you. Now, there were 400 descendants of the 688 there that day, and plus their children. There's still one living member of this unit. 6 years ago when this started, there were 6. So that's all the work that has been done with this. And you think about how long it takes for some of this recognition. We have to hold on to our history. Because doing some of the work I did for this book about World War II, I learned, why don't I know this? I'm in the Army, why don't I know this? Because it isn't taught. So we have to remember. Now, some of you may have heard that just a few weeks ago there was a video placed on a website by our current Secretary of Defense that quoted certain preachers as saying that we need to repeal the 19th Amendment. So let me leave you with this quote from former President Ronald Reagan. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, it must be protected, and it must be handed to our children so that they may do the same. We must fight for our rights and our future. Thank you. Thank you all. It's a privilege to be here with you. And Jens, know I want to move back to the
Right now, we're here to recognize the spirit of the 19th Amendment honorees, and I would like to invite my board member, Suzanne Thomas, to talk about it.
I realize I'm not a major general, but can I get a little more love here? I really appreciate everybody coming here. It's just wonderful to see those young people like myself, and then those who have gone before us and those who come after us. It's such a great thing to see the representation that we have here. So we need to discuss the criteria for the Spirit of the 19th Amendment Award. Each year, the Pennsylvania Women's Hall of Achievement honors women who are passionate about women's stories and the overwhelming barriers women had to overcome to obtain their basic human rights. The selection of the nominees involves the following criteria. A woman who is currently residing in Pennsylvania. The nominee is an outstanding woman in her profession and/or volunteer service who has made a significant impact in her region, state, and/or nation. The nominee works to improve women's status in her region and state, and the nominee advocates for women and their economic, political, and general welfare rights. Help us honor these women by nominating women whose leadership exemplifies those who courageously champion women's rights. And please help me welcome the women who are our Spirit of the 19th Amendment winners.
What I'd like to do is to ask our board members were part of recognizing and nominating our honorees, and I'd like my board member, Tony Silva-Gilas, to come and talk about Brenda Tate, please.
Good afternoon. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce our honoree, Brenda Tate. Brenda Tate, a long-time resident of the Pittsburgh Hill District, spent more than 4 decades in law enforcement. She was the first Black female officer hired at the Housing Authority of the City of Pittsburgh, where she served 5 years. She served 40 years as an officer with the Pittsburgh Bureau of Police. As a detective, she served in the Sex Assault in Pittsburgh Initiative to Reduce Crime Units and was the only African-American officer appointed to the Elite Witness and Dignitary Protection Unit, providing security for presidents, international dignitaries, and civil rights leaders, including Rosa Parks and the Dalai Lama. After her retirement in 2014, Brenda started her own security firm and continued her commitment to public service as a certified addiction counselor, author, and advocate. She was elected to the Pennsylvania State Democratic Committee and appointed chair of the Allegheny County Democratic Committee Black Caucus. A longtime member of Ebenezer Baptist Church in the Hill District, she has participated in missionary work across Africa and Europe. Devoted to the Pittsburgh Seniors, in 2022, Brenda co-founded Senior Jazz Connections, a program offering monthly entertainment, meals, and support services to nursing homes and underserved communities in Pittsburgh. In 2024, Brenda published a memoir, Journal of a Black Woman in Blue, a personal account of the horrific challenges she faced as a child, a young woman, a black woman, and a black woman in blue. Brenda, a remarkable woman who by faith and prayer overcame her life challenges and built a successful career. She is a respected leader in both law enforcement and community advocacy. She has received numerous accolades and prestigious awards for her outstanding leadership. Brenda Tate is revered as a pillar in the Pittsburgh community. Brenda, congratulations. Please come to the podium to receive the award. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Joanne, and thank you, Bonnie. Thank you to the board. I'm a little tall. Thank you to the board, and just thank you all for being here. I started to prepare some words, but the Spirit said, don't get up here talking about a whole lot of stuff. Just get up and tell the people thank you. And I do want to say that, but I first want to thank Major Evers for her service. Thank you so much. If you all would Google 6888 on Netflix, you would understand the courage of a black woman. The mission that they were given says it all. We might wear heels and lipstick, but there's a whole bunch of power in this stuff. I'm proud to be a black woman. I always tell Judge over there, God don't love no coward soldiers. And we women are not coward soldiers. After 40 years on the Pittsburgh Police Department, I stood there and watched year after year a court system that didn't look like me and didn't look like women, period. It angered me to the point we weren't allowed to get out and be political when we were wearing uniforms. But I told you God don't love coward soldiers. I stood on the corner of 5th and Smithfield and made my own sheets up about electing judges. And I would pass them out in uniform to make sure that our court system looked like the people they served. That has been my mission from the start. That is the continued mission I have, to make sure that our court system look like women that know will do the job, that know what they're doing, and see what's going on a level that men will never understand. That has been my mission, will continue to be my mission. We have 3 judges in Supreme Court that we had better, it's our last, yeah. I get so angry, I just can't think about it. We must retain those judges. We must tell everybody we know it's our last bastion of safety. And in our courts here in Allegheny County, we must elect these women and make sure that our families know, because I'll be long gone, that I'll have grandkids that will need that system to speak for them. So I thank you all. Don't get me to start preaching, because I will. But I thank you all again for this award. With the spirit of Ida B. Wells, I thank you.
The next person to introduce our next honoree is Bonnie DeCarlo. We will be recognizing the Honorable Pam Iavino. Bonnie?
Thanks, Joanne. I've known Pam Iavino for quite a long time, and I consider her a good friend, and I'm so happy that I can introduce you to accept this award, Pam. Pam Iavino, one thing I found out when I was looking through her biography and her bio and trying to write something up was, every title that you have is so freaking long. I mean, the Deputy Secretary for the Pennsylvania Department of State, nominated to serve as member of the State Civil Service Commission by Governor Wolf. Those aren't too bad. I must have cut some of them down. Because every time you have to say, of the state of Pennsylvania, by this, of that. So anyhow, Pam Iavino was nominated to serve as a member of the State Civil Service Commission by Governor Tom Wolf, like I just said, and was confirmed by the Pennsylvania Senate. She also serves as a veteran advocate. Pam served as Deputy Secretary for the Pennsylvania Department of State, and before she was appointed to that, she was elected to a special election for the State Senate, representing the state's 37th district. I met Pam when she was working on a campaign for president, actually. It wasn't Pam's campaign. Who was it? Oh, I'm sorry, Joe, and I know him very well. Joe Sestak, yes, he was running for president. And so I got to know her way back then. However, I did not know of her background in Washington, D.C. Pam is a military service veteran and obtained the rank of captain in the United States Navy before retiring in 2003 after 23 years of service. Pam was unanimously confirmed by the U.S. Senate to serve as Assistant Secretary for Congressional Affairs at the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. She then served Chief Legislative Advocate for the nation's 25 million veterans and their dependents. Pam received many awards, locally and nationally, and some of those awards include the Legion of Merit, the Meritorious Service Medal, and the Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal. But I want to say a couple of words about Pam personally. Pam will help you if you need help. Pam will go after you if you needed. Pam will advocate for you as she has for the veterans and as she has in the State Department. And she is a very trustworthy friend. She is a great member of the community and participates in community activities. She's just an all-around person, very proud veteran, a very proud, moved back to Pennsylvania and lives right here in the area. And so I am very happy at this point to say the Honorable Pam Iovina, come out and get your recognition.
I'm humbled by all those kind words, Bonnie. Thank you. I want to first of all congratulate my fellow awardees today, and I am proud and humbled to be in your company to receiving this recognition. I have to just there's a thing in Washington that says that the importance of your job is a direct inverse relationship to the length of its title. President. But when you were the Assistant Secretary for Congressional and Legislative Affairs for the Department of Veterans Affairs, that was an important job. I just want to say a couple thank yous myself. First of all, to some are in the room and many are not in the room. And that is the generation that went before me. That kicked down doors and broke glass ceilings and mentored me and encouraged me and criticized me and set me right for everything that they did for me that brought me that career that I enjoyed and brought me to today. To my peers and colleagues, again, some in the room, many, many not here, that I became a better public servant because of the collaboration and sometimes competition between us. And they're not bad, well, both are very good words, collaboration and competition, so I'm grateful for that. And the third is to the next generation that is behind me. For your willingness to be leaders, whether it's in the public sector, in your communities, your churches, the private sector. There is much, much work yet to be done for those of you that are stepping up next to do it. Reach out, ask for help, be collaborators, be competitors, help the next generation down yourself. And let me just finish by taking this back to that work to be done, the least of which, unfathomably, is protecting our right to vote, which is what today is all about, the 19th Amendment. And so, since you all know this, pass this along and make people realize how difficult it was, that what a milestone it was in 1920 to codify into the Constitution the right to vote for white women. And make sure they know that. And that it took, again, unfathomably, 45 more years of fight to secure it for African American women and all American women in this country. So I leave you with those words. I thank you again very much for this honor.
You guys keep on moving the microphone. All right, the last award, but not the least. One of my board members nominated Kate Romaine. Megan, where are you? Come on up. Oh, she's as short as me.
everybody. In a world where kitchens have traditionally been dominated by men, Chef Kate Remain is a leader. Her catering company, Black Radish Kitchen, is defined by innovation, rooted in sustainability and community. Kate is passionate about using locally grown produce, forging strong partnerships with farm-to-table collaborators, supporting small-scale agriculture, reducing environmental impact, and strengthening the local food economy. From launching her own thriving culinary venture to mentoring the next generation of service industry professionals, Kate is a force for change. She champions equity, uplifts marginalized voices, and challenges old school hierarchies. What she's building is more than a career, it's a movement, proving that leadership in the service industry can be both fierce and compassionate. Please, thank you for recognizing Kate Remain.
This is not my forte, but I just wanted to take a second and thank Bonnie and Joanne and certainly Megan and everyone. I'm humbled and honored to be in a room with such amazing people, and so thank you all, and let's keep doing all of this great work, and I'll see you next year. Good.
I have one award, one gift to give. The woman who designs these, her name, is she left already? Yes, Marcia. Her name is Marcia Weechek. She owns the Glass Kaleidoscope. And each year, she works with us and works very reasonably, and her art is amazing. So I want to, everybody, if you need an award, something special for Glass Kaleidoscope, a woman-owned business in Oakmont, PA. Major, General, come on. Yes, this is for you. Yes. All right. Our next recognition is the calendars. And my board member, Suzanne Thomas, is going to talk about the criteria of what we judge.
Thank you. I was told to speak up, so if I mess with your eardrums, blame somebody at my table. Shall remain anonymous, Holly. So all of you have seen the calendars on your table. This is a labor of love for many of the board members. It's Women's Voices, Hear Them Speak for 2026. Now these are women who have been living in Pennsylvania, lived in Pennsylvania at some point, had a residency. There are also women who were outstanding, again, in their fields, and they made an impact to either their region, their state, or the nation. They have been the trailblazers that have come before us and go ahead of us. It's really heartening to me that we have women from all generations, such as Margaret Mead and Deputy Commissioner Maisha Massey, and then we have young Holly Hickman. I mean, you look at this and it's just like, wow, the world is in a good place if we have people like this in it. So, if you have someone you want to nominate for 2027, we're taking nominations. The rules are they must be lived in or in the past resided in Pennsylvania. Again, outstanding in their field. If they are deceased, we have to wait 10 years. If they are living, we must get their permission. I have directions, I don't follow directions well. So if you know somebody, any of the board members have a little star on their name tags. If you know somebody, let us know and we will be happy to honor them in the 2027 calendar. These calendars are available. If you're interested, I buy one for every one of my staff every year. Of course, they're women, so they would appreciate it. And I do want to give a shout out to the Black Radish because Alcoasand used them last year for the first time at our open house, which is September 13th, for those of you who don't know. And everybody came up to me and said, the food this year was amazing. So if you want amazing food, you know who to go to. So I'm going to bring Joanne back up and Tony around to come honor the women who are nominated for our calendar for 2026.
The first nominee that is here is well known to many of you, Kathy Wilson Humphrey. President of Harlow College.
Her story is amazing. Please read it.
Move over a little bit so that Tony can
Which
get
way?
it.
Oh. Her story is amazing. Take time to read these stories of these women and recognize all that they've done. And not for awards, because it needed to be done.
They try to get off stage and leave me out there. The next woman you have met and heard her speak. And she has, well, she's my new best friend. Major General Mary Kay Evans, retired.
Y'all squeezing me.
This lady, I think, is the one, our May calendar star, is the one who's come the furthest. Maisha, Commissioner. Deputy Commissioner Maisha Massey.
She drove in from Philadelphia. We met for the first time and had a wonderful time at dinner.
Thank you for your service. One of the things I like about doing this is I get to meet younger people. Holly Hickman, please come up. Read your story.
Thanks for calling me young.
I have to say, Holly went to school with my children and my daughter needs to step up her game.
That's grocery shopping. I'm delighted. This woman, I know, has been a friend of Bonnie's, and they have been an admirer of one another. She accomplishes a great deal. And I told her, her organization literally does the work. It's the hands and feet of Jesus, feeding those who need to be fed. Lisa Scales. donate to her organization.
Yeah.
This lady, October, I've known for quite a while. We had a number of adventures. Yes. And she comes from Mid-State. You're in Lancaster, right?
I'm in Hershey.
Hershey, oh,
Yeah,
that
the whole area, run the whole area.
Yeah. So we have really reached out. So come on up, Jane Houston.
We go way back.
Yes, we do.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Every year, you know, we're working on, this is 26 and we're already thinking about 27, and yet I'm in 25. You know, it gets a little confusing. But we really need your help. We need your help to, can you hear me? We need your help to nominate people for both, for the calendar and for the award. We need your help in spreading out the mission. We need younger women to be aware of what we do and be proud of what we have accomplished. Every year, we lose a little bit of our history, and that should not happen. So next year, as we go into wrap up, I'm gonna ask every one of you to bring a younger girl here. We'll be here next year, you be here, and you bring a younger woman. Thank you.